Bleav in LA Football podcast.
Touchdown Rams! Touchdown UCLA! Recovered by the Chargers. The Trojans back in front. Touchdown Wildcats.
With your host, Ryan Dyrud on the Bleav Podcast Network and LAFBnetwork.com. This is your destination for Los Angeles football.
What's up, Los Angeles football fans? This is the LA Football Podcast here on the Bleav Podcast Network, the number one sports podcast network in all of Los Angeles. We're also on LAFBnetwork.com, your destination for all your favorite Los Angeles football teams. Make sure to check out the site. Got a lot of good content, even though we have no sports on. Putting up good stories. Got a great team of writers. Getting some video content. Obviously, this podcast is hosted there. So make sure to check that out. Check out Bleav for all the other great podcasts that the network has. A lot of great athletes on there. Got a big one, Rams fans joining. I'm not gonna announce it yet. We'll just tease that. But we got a big host joining the network if you're a Rams fan. Chargers fans have one too, coming soon. Hopefully still working through the details. But just a little teaser there for you. Hopefully, though, you love this show, the LA Football Podcast. We got it all covered for you. Anything USC, UCLA, Rams and Chargers, we got you covered. Find us on our socials. You can find us on Twitter, LAFB Network, Instagram, LAFB Network, Facebook, LA Football Network. I am Ryan Dyrud, LAFB on Twitter. Drop me a line. Give me a shout-out. Would love to talk some football with you, talk anything. Just get your opinion on the show, whatever. Love to hear from you. You can email me, podcast@LAFBnetwork.com if you're not on social media, if you live in the dark ages or just not about it. To each their own. Totally fine. Hit me up, podcast@LAFBnetwork.com. Subscribe to the show wherever you listen. We're everywhere. Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn, Google Play, all the above. Hit that subscribe button. Drop us a rating. We would appreciate it. I would appreciate it. And that way you get notified every time the show is dropped. If you've noticed, if you've been listening all month long, I kind of scaled back a little bit, recorded just once a week. I've been doing just mainly Thursdays. Well, now that we're in July, I'll be going back to Mondays and Thursdays. So today is Thursday, Friday if you're listening, whatever, but this is a Thursday show. We'll be back on Monday, be going Monday and Thursday again moving forward. Not so much that, obviously we don't have a lot of content. The sports aren't going on. Mini camps were basically all virtual for the NFL. No real action going on in college football. But that wasn't so much. It was more so, for those of you that had listened, my daughter came home. This is 3 weeks yesterday. 3 weeks on Wednesday since she's been home. So more just scaling back a little bit. I live in a one-bedroom apartment, so recording with her is already a challenge in its own. My wife's on a walk right now going to the grocery store, so that's kind of how I'm able to have some quiet here, which still not that quiet. You can probably hear helicopters over my apartment right now, but is what it is. So anyway, we'll be back to 2 days a week in July. Looking forward to that. Got some great guests lining up. I was building my guest list for the month, so get excited for that. I'm super pumped. I'm super pumped with the direction of this show, the direction of LAFB Network, what we have planned for you guys for the season, building our community, building our faithful. Hopefully you just want this to be a place where LA football fans can come together, read great content, listen to great podcasts, get good information, but also connect with each other. We've partnered with Cited, Scott Kaplan's company. It's a debate platform. If you go to LFB Network, you can see these debates all over. Jump on there, debate with one another. It's just a fun way to interact, especially right now. If you're not working, like a lot of people in restaurant hotels just shut down again, why not just interact with people, hang out, whether you do it on Twitter, on LFB Network, whatever. So we want to create a community for football fans here in Los Angeles. There's a lot of great news outlets. The Athletic is one that's killing the game. LA Times obviously been around forever. They're doing a great job. You have the blogosphere with, Fansided and SB Nation. They all did a good job. They all have great writers. But for me, I feel like a lot of those, you go, you read your content, and you leave. Or the writers are very kind of high profile. So whether you comment on something, or they're usually not going to respond. Some do. Not saying not all do. But I wanted a place where you can come, interact with one another, interact with the writers. And so we're still growing that. And so that's kind of the goal, and that's what we want for this upcoming season, a place where you can come, go to LAFBnetwork.com. We're going to hopefully have an app coming out soon, which will be great, and just stay there and interact and chat instead of just, reading an article and moving on. So anyway, I digress. There's my little shameless pitch for the show. It's 4th of July weekend. Probably other than Christmas, it's my favorite holiday on the entire calendar. I love 4th of July. I love what it stands for, the American pride, the aspect of our independence. But it's just a great holiday. It's warm out, sun's out, guns out. You got the tank top going, pop tops, have plenty of beer. You got the grill going, good friends, good music, and you cap it off with fireworks shows. Like, what could be better? Hanging out all day with your friends, whether at the beach, the pool, backyard, cul-de-sac, wherever it may be, slamming down brewskis and eating hot dogs, burgers, and then watching fireworks. I don't know how much gets much better than that. Now, this year, obviously, going to be a little different. Out here in LA, beaches are going to be closed. Curious what you think on that. Hit me up, Ryan Dyer at LAFB. I'm curious your thoughts. It's funny that here's a holiday celebrating our independence as a nation from England back in 1776, Declaration of Independence, a few years later when we actually won the Revolutionary War. And yet this 4th of July, there's a lot of restrictions on what we can do. Now, not saying that that's necessarily wrong for the circumstance we're in a worldwide pandemic. Just curious your thoughts. What do you think? I personally, I'm a huge proponent of, independence, little government interaction, if you will, or control. But I think in this instance, it's the right thing. I mean, beaches on the 4th of July are packed. If you're not there at like 8 in the morning, you're not getting a spot. They are packed every 4th of July. I used to live in Long Beach, so we'd go down to, they called it Horny Corner down in Long Beach by 2nd Street. I don't know how it got that nickname, but yeah, that was the spot we'd go. Or you go to Huntington Beach, Hermosa Beach I've been to before. Up here now I live in Pasadena, so the closest beach is probably Santa Monica. Anyway, packed with people. Probably just what's going on. Not the best thing to do when a pandemic, a super easy to spread sickness is still not just lurking, still running rampant. So, beaches will be closed. So you got to be more intimate. For me, we weren't going to do much anyway. My daughter has just turned 3 months. She already has the heart condition. Last thing we need to be around is around a bunch of people and around a lot of loud fireworks. So it'll be probably the first 4th of July that I can remember where we literally don't do anything. We're going to grill at our apartment. Might have like 2 friends come over for a little bit. They're not even doing fireworks, I don't think, at the Rose Bowl this year because of everything. So we'll just kick back like we've been doing for the last 3 months. So I'm curious. I'm going to post a debate on Cited. I will do it. I'll put it on LFB Network too in this podcast. If you're listening on LFB Network, you'll be looking at it right now. But if not, go to LFB Network. I'll post it on Twitter, or you can go to cited.co. I'm curious, what are the top 5 items required for a successful 4th of July? We're going to get to football, I promise. Got a great show planned for you. I'm curious what the top 5 items you have are for a successful 4th of July. So the way I'll do the debate is you got to pick the number one. Seems simple enough, fireworks. But there's a lot of things that go into a successful 4th of July barbecue. You got to have burgers, dogs, brats. Maybe you like spicy brats. However you do it, maybe you do chili dogs. I know that's super big for some people. Do you have to have homemade, chips, guac, salsas, homemade stuff like that? Are you okay with store-bought paste or Mission? Cold beer. Gotta have cold beer. What's your beer choice? You go Coors Light, Bud Light. You gotta do an American staple. Sam Adams, maybe? I don't know. Lawn games. You do like to have the cornhole out there in the backyard, or whether you're on the beach in most years. Play some volleyball. I remember one year when I was growing up as a kid, we played a huge roller hockey tournament in our cul-de-sac. So games, is that important? Music. Do you like live music? Do you like, just set up the boombox? Not that anyone has a boombox anymore. The HomePod, the Google Home, whatever you have. What's the most important thing for a successful 4th of July? So I'm curious. You can vote or just hit me up. Twitter, love to hear what you're thinking. All right, let's get to some football, shall we? Got a fun show planned for today. We're going to hit every team, and I'm going to talk about 2 things I love and 1 thing I hate heading into the 2020 season for each of the LA football squads. Just think it's a fun way to, here we are. Got a big couple episodes coming up soon, so this was kind of the in-between one. Prepping for 4th of July. But I wanted to just do a fun, hit each team, talk about what we're planning for or what we're excited about, and talk some good football. So let's start off with USC, shall we? So 2 things I love about USC this year. First one's the wide receiver core. What's not to love about this wide receiver core? There's been a lot of great receivers that come out of the University of Southern California in its history. What one could argue, probably still running back university is what it's most known for. Had a lot of good quarterbacks, but they've had an unparalleled amount of good receivers as well. Probably can't call them wide receiver university yet, but where they are right now has to be one of the most talented wide receiver universities, and for sure, this receiving core. I know Clemson's been really, really good in the last decade with receivers. Alabama obviously has been great. But you got to look at this receiving core. Tyler Vaughns returns. Amon-Ra St. Brown returns. Drake London, who flashed last year, who kind of started slow and all of a sudden is this big-bodied slot receiver that can stretch the field. He's lanky. He's back, obviously. He was a freshman. Brew McCoy, 5-star recruit. If you don't know his story, we need to get one up on LFV Network anyway. Just get him on the show maybe and just talk about his story. But it's pretty fascinating. 5-star recruit out of Mater Dei, I believe. Commits to USC. Ends up changing his mind, going to Texas. Changes his mind again. Comes back to SC. Has to sit a year out because of the transfer. Ends up having weird fevers last year. So doesn't play at all last year. Well, he's finally, I think, good, ready to go. He could end up being the best receiver on the roster. And he hasn't played a down yet, really, in college football. But when he was coming out of Mater Dei, a huge recruit. So he'll be there, playing, finally. Kyle Ford, another big recruit out of Corona, out of Centennial. He's going to be suiting up. Didn't play much last year either because of injuries. Gary Bryant Jr., another big recruit. And excuse me, Kyle Ford went to Orange Lutheran. Gary Bryant Jr. went to Centennial. So this receiving core, those are 6 guys. Did I do the math right? Yeah, 6 guys that could probably all be number 1 receivers on a lot of the top programs in the NCAA. Each one could probably be the number 1 receiver on a lot of programs. And you have all 6 in your stable. Tyler Vaughns, Amon-Ra St. Brown should both go over 1,000 yards. Especially the way this offense goes, I would not be shocked. Here's a hot take. Would not be shocked if 4 Trojan wide receivers go for over 1,000 yards. I want to see it. The way the offense is, the air raid style with Graham Harrell, and just what the talent level is. You have a huge loss in Michael Pittman Jr. Can't replace a guy like that. I talked so many times about he was my top receiver in this draft. Or somewhat. Jerry Jeudy was my number 1, but Michael Pittman Jr. was like my top possession receiver in this draft, who I think is going to be extremely successful. The Colts got such a good player. Can't replace that. But you have a stable of 6 guys that are so talented, and they're going to be so fun to watch. So, 4 USC receivers going over 1,000 yards this year, which brings me to the number 2 thing that I love about this USC team. That's Kedon Slovis. Going into year 2 as a quarterback for USC, going into year 2 under Graham Harrell's system, the only bummer at all is he's not going to be this unknown anymore. He's not going to surprise people. So now he's actually, he's on their radar. They have tape on him. But he made some great throws. I still think that last year, back to that ASU throw, that 97-yard touchdown pass on the money. I think it was to Amon-Ra St. Brown, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah, I'm super excited about Kedon Slovis. I know, obviously, JT Daniels transferred, which, no shocker, kid can play. The unfortunate, if not for injury, we would never even probably know Kedon Slovis' name still to this day. But I love Slovis. Obviously, the team loves him. Graham Harrell loves him. Give him another offseason. I know this has been a weird offseason, but just more time to develop. Get big in the weight room, maybe. He's a young kid, 19 years old. So, excited to see Kedon Slovis in year 2. What's the thing I hate? The one thing I hate. I mean, you could probably find a few things. The thing I hate the most, I hate that this team is opening up against Alabama. I hate that. You could argue the other side, that you love it. because you get your true test right off the bat. You see where this team is going into the season right off the bat. But that's why I hate it. I think this team is going to be much improved. They went to a bowl game last year, obviously losing to Iowa. Had a not great recruiting class coming into this year, but they're returning a lot of the same players. You have, like I already talked about the running backs, the receivers. I already talked about Keaton Slovis. You return pretty much all your running backs from last year. A lot of the offensive line, obviously you lose Austin Jackson, your staple on the left side, but the rest you return. A lot of guys on defense you return. So this team's going to be improved than they were last year. But if you open against Alabama and you come out poor, say you don't even lose, but you lose big, they're going to be written off. And maybe that's to their advantage. I don't know. But I don't like opening a season against a perennial powerhouse, because if you end up getting blown out, that can derail your season before it even begins. Now, with good leadership, it couldn't have a huge factor. When we look at a few years ago when they got blown out by Alabama, then all of a sudden enters Sam Darnold. They go on this great run. They finish 9-3. They win the Rose Bowl in one of the greatest college games, in my opinion, I've watched, where they beat Penn State. But you think if they didn't have that game in the beginning, if they had maybe a cupcake game like all these big programs always schedule, get their momentum going, really work on the playbook, get all the skill players going, get the offensive line, the defensive line in congruence, because you don't even have a true offseason. So it's going to take some warm-up time. And then you play your heavy opponent later on when you're really an oiled machine going. So you can really truly see what your test is. Because in college football, a loss is a loss. You can sit there and we talk about the committee, the playoff committee, and they can say, well, USC really improved from week 1 to week 10, but they still lost by 25 to Alabama. We can't forget that. That's not a team that can go to the national championship. Whereas if they played Alabama in week 10, and again, hopefully none of this happens. I'm just talking, obviously, worst case scenario. But if they play Alabama in week 10, when things are really rolling, either they maybe lose by a field goal or they win. It could be a very different team from week 1 to week 10. So I don't love opening against the Alabama Crimson Tide, this great team, right off the bat. All right, but before we move on to UCLA, I had a Twitter question from Evan Desai. His Twitter handle is @Mumbai_Desai. I posted hit me up with some questions regarding today's episode, any of the teams, and he asked, who on USC's Pac-12 schedule do they have to worry about? Who can beat them, and what's the likelihood that they do? Great question, Evan. USC's got a tough schedule. Obviously, I mentioned them playing Alabama to start the year, and then they finished the season playing against Notre Dame. Now, their Pac-12 schedule is no walk in the park either. They have at Stanford is always tough. I know Stanford's been kind of down the last few years, but still have great coaching up there. Still a tough place. It's not one of the toughest places to play in college football. Obviously, Stanford's not a prowess of football school, if you will, even though they have a lot of talent. They don't have like a crazy student section. Still a good program, though. They have to go to at Utah this year. Colorado's going to be a weird team, because they were looking like they're going to be a really improved team with Mel Tucker going into his second year. Then he jumps ship and goes to Michigan State. Now they have Kyle Durrell, former UCLA coach, but a high-character guy, and they do have some good recruits there at Colorado, so I think they'll be improved too. They do have a new quarterback, though, but we'll see. But anyway, there's two games, Evan, that I think are really going to pose a lot of challenge for USC, and there were two that I didn't want to make the obvious. I think at Utah is like an obvious one. Obviously, Utah's been dominant in this division for a long time. Washington's always a good program, even though they had kind of a down year last year. But the two I want to talk about first, in week 4, I believe, or the 4th game of the season, they play Arizona State at home. Now, Arizona State is a interesting program because they are going into year 3, I believe year 3, with Herm Edwards as their head coach, and he's really turned that program around. They are a lot of fun to watch. They're getting some really good recruits. I mean, they are cleaning up in California. All the top California kids are going to Arizona State, going to play for Herm Edwards. So they're getting really good recruits. Jaden Daniels, their kind of really talented freshman quarterback from last year, going into his sophomore year. Everyone talked about Keaton Slovis as freshman of the year, and rightfully slow. rightfully so. But Jaden Daniels at Arizona State's very talented too. Has a very good arm. Showed a lot of good things on tape for Arizona State. So he's a guy to look at as one of the top quarterbacks in the entire conference, I think. So that's going to be a tough test. I know it helps them that it's at home. I think that bodes well for USC. But yeah, ASU is not going away. It's a program on the rise. Herm Edwards is doing great things. So I think to me, that's a 60-40 game. USC, I would still lean 60% for them just because it's at home. And USC is going to be much improved also. If you remember that game last year, I Bleav USC jumped to like a 28-0 lead. They were just killing it in the first quarter. Like nothing could go wrong. And then they really just grinded out the rest. I think they ended up winning like 34-28, or it was a close game when it finished. So you see the box score at the end, you're like, oh wow, that was probably a really good football game. And it really, as if you're a Trojans fan, you were sitting on the edge of your seat like, what is going on? Are we going to blow this game? So they ended up hanging on, but Arizona State came roaring back. We saw some of the talent there. So they're another team to watch. That game kind of worries me a bit. The other one I want to talk about is they have to go up to Eugene and play at Oregon. Now, I say this is more of maybe a surprise or maybe one that not a lot of people are talking about as a tough game because of the loss of Justin Herbert, their 4-year starting quarterback, went 6th overall to the Chargers. Obviously a huge loss. Huge loss. But Oregon is Pac-12 champs. They're the defending Rose Bowl champs. And until someone defeats them or upseats them, they're the defending champs. So they have to be regarded as a team that's going to pose a lot of problems and a lot of challenge. Mario Cristobal has done a great job with that program as well. And Oregon's not an easy place to play. You know, you got all the crazy colors going on, different field design. It's a cool stadium up there. Eugene's got a great fan base because there's really nothing much else in Eugene than Oregon Duck football. So that's another one I'm circling, and to me that's a 50-50 split. It's an away game, defending Rose Bowl champions, defending Pac-12 champions. It's late in the season. Guys are probably going to be banged up, but we should know what this team really looks like for the Trojans. So those are the two that I'm worried about, but I do still think the Trojans can come up with victories. I would just give it a 50-50 split for this Oregon game. So, Evan, thank you for the question. And let's move on to the UCLA Bruins now. 2 things I love, 1 thing I hate. 2 things I love. First, let's start with this year's recruiting class. They've got a lot of talented guys. I think they finished 5th in the Pac-12 in the recruiting class, like 28th in the nation. So really good improvement for Chip Kelly. Really good improvement. Next year, 2021 recruiting class, they're a little behind. They're not. USC's cleaning up next year's. UCLA is a little behind. I think they only have like 1 or 2 commits so far. But I really like this year's. And there's 2 guys particularly that I think can make an impact immediately as freshmen. And one is Damian Sellers, linebacker they got out of Arizona. Guy is just a great athlete, can play all over the field. Wouldn't be shocked if he's starting day 1. If he's not, he still can make an impact on special teams, and he'll probably spot start or at least come in rotationally, maybe on 3rd down or different defensive packages. But I love Damian Sellers. Huge get for them. Really good 4-star recruit. The other one's Logan Loya. And this team hasn't had a really good receiver in quite some time. They've got some talent there. I Bleav they're returning almost all of their receivers from last year. Obviously, the big loss is Devin Asiasi, the tight end. But, returning a lot of the same guys. Kyle Phillips comes back. Chase Cota comes back. Jalen Irwin will be there as a transfer. But I love Logan Loya out of St. John Bosco. They've gotten a lot of recruits from St. John Bosco. Obviously, the California State champions. So that's going to bode well. So I love Logan Loya. He's a good recruit, good receiver. Hopefully they can start building this receiving room. I don't think it's ever going to be able to reach USC status, at least not in the interim, or at least not in the current state as it is. Maybe one day. But if they can at least build a respectable receiving room, and that starts with Logan Loya right now as a freshman, I think he can make an impact on day 1. They got the quarterback, Parker McQuarrie. Top recruit. Number 1 recruit out of back east out there in New Hampshire, I Bleav. Big pro-style quarterback. Don't know if he'll play right off the bat, probably won't, but I like his future. So, the other thing I love about this team is its young offensive line. Last year, started 4 freshmen on the offensive line. 4 freshmen. So you have 4 sophomores now, played together, building some continuity, but they're young. They want to turn this program around. They were recruited all together by Chip Kelly. So you don't have those overlaps when Chip Kelly came in of, Chip Kelly and, old recruits. So I like that. Some continuity on the offensive line, growing together, learning the scheme together, fitting together. And now they're going into year 2. So we should see a big leap. I love Sean Ryan, the left tackle. A lot of talent there. So another thing I love. Thing I hate about this Bruins squad. I don't love the QB situation. I know right now, Dorian Thompson-Robinson is still slated as the starter. I don't love it. Not saying he can't overcome what the negatives we've seen. But it seemed like last year, so many times we'd see improvement. Maybe 2 weeks of improvement. And you're like, okay, here's the DTR that everyone was so excited about when he committed to UCLA. The tremendous athlete, good arm talent, able to extend plays. This is the DTR we've been waiting for. And then, 3rd game of the season, go right back to his old ways. Horrible reads, holding the ball too long, not knowing the plays, running 40 yards backwards and getting sacked instead of just throwing it away, playing for another down. Fumbling. So many fumbles, just dropping the ball. So there's still just a lot of question marks involving him. And I've said this before in this podcast. If UCLA gets the quarterback situation figured out, there is no reason this can't be a 6-win bowl team. 6-win bowl eligible team. No reason, which I think is a must. I think if they don't win 6 games, if they aren't eligible for a bowl game this year, that might be the end of Chip Kelly. Everyone kind of said he has a 4-year leash, give or take. This is year 3, so you'd think, to have 2 years left. But when you go 3 wins and then 4 wins, if you don't go at least to 6 and get a bowl in your 3rd, if you just go to 5 games, get 1 game more, I think you cut your ties. There's a new AD in town, obviously. I talked about him before, coming from Boston College. That brings a winning culture with him. So Chip Kelly is not his guy. So I would not be shocked at all if they don't win more than 6 games or more, it could be the last for Chip Kelly. But if they have the quarterback figured out, if it is DTR, and DTR plays to his talent level that everyone is hyped about and excited about, this is a 6-win team easy. Even with a very good Pac-12 South. Talked about ASU, how good they're doing. U of A is another team on the rise. Obviously, you have Utah. USC is going to get back to their old ways, I think. So you have a lot of good teams in the Pac-12 South. But I still think UCLA can play spoiler in a lot of those games like they did last year. And I think they can win some of the North games they play. I like them easily getting over 6 games if they have the QB situation figured out, but I don't love it because I don't think it's figured out. Austin Burton went in the transfer portal, so he's gone. I kind of liked what I saw from Austin Burton, but no longer there. So it's kind of a DT or bust situation. They have some other kids. Obviously, I mentioned, Parker McQuarrie, who they got, but I don't know if you want to start a true freshman. So we'll see. Don't love it, but we'll see what happens when the season starts. Hopefully they get that figured out. All right, on to the LA Rams. LA Rams. A lot of things to love. There's a lot of things to love about the LA Rams this year. They're a weird team because sometimes they're talked about with love and affection, like, oh, they've had a good offseason. And sometimes they're talked about like, man, what are they doing? What are they doing? Lost these guys in free agency, yada, yada, yada. So, first thing I love the versatility on defense that this team has. Now, let me explain. One of the biggest things that a lot of people think the Rams missed on in free agency and the draft was shoring up the inside linebacker position. Corey Littleton signed with the Raiders. No longer there. Huge hole. Huge hole. His 100-plus tackles, captain of the defense, calling the plays, or at least him and Eric Weddle. big hole. Didn't draft anyone. They drafted, in the 7th round, someone. Johnson out of Baylor. Didn't sign anyone in free agency. So the idea is that they're going to roll with, the guys they had from last year and see what they do. But I wrote an article on this, actually. And it's about, you can find it on lfbnetwork.com, about the versatility, about what the scheme's going to look like. If you look at Brandon Staley, and there's not a lot to go off of, but he spent 3 years with Vic Fangio. So we got to assume the defense is going to be very similar to a Vic Fangio-style defense. And his defenses command versatility, meaning multiple players need to be able to do multiple things. You have a role, you have a position, but he's going to ask you to do different things in that position. We saw a lot in Denver. Von Miller dropped back in coverage. We talked a lot about Leonard Floyd, who the Rams signed. He dropped back in coverage a lot too. He was really good in coverage. Whether you hate it or love it, that's kind of what you expect from a Vic Fangio defense, and we think Brandon Staley will bring that to the Rams defense. Now, their base package is a 3-4 package, where you'd assume you have, obviously, Michael Brockers, Aaron Donald. You're going to have the starters on safeties, John Johnson, Taylor Rapp, Jalen Ramsey, whether it's Troy Hill on the outside with them, but your base package. When Brandon Staley was in Chicago with Vic Fangio, and I'm sure these numbers are similar last year with Denver, the Bears' defense ran 84% of their plays out of nickel or dime. So out of their, not in their base package. So 16% of their plays were run out of their base. Basically meaning, don't fret about they didn't go sign a big-name linebacker. They didn't draft a big-name middle linebacker. Again, we're talking about the middle linebacker. Obviously, they drafted Terrell Lewis out of Alabama, who's an edge guy. But you have John Johnson, you have Taylor Rapp, and I've talked about Terrell Burgess before, who's extremely versatile. Expect him to play a lot of maybe nickel, whether he's down in the box playing the linebacker position. David Long Jr. is a guy they're very excited about to play the slot corner. So they're going to have a lot of these nickel dime packages, so I wouldn't fret. So I'm excited about the versatility. Long with the answer to saying that. Love what we're going to see, because Wade Phillips is going to go down as one of the great defensive minds. But his defense is very kind of cut and dry sometimes. You have your role. Do your role. Do your job. It's very kind of vanilla, and it doesn't change. And that was one of the reasons why Sean McVay moved on, is because he wanted to see his defenses adapt throughout time, adapt throughout the games, adapt throughout the season. And the Rams defense just didn't do that. Pretty much just stayed vanilla. And once offenses started figuring that out, hence why Wade Phillips usually only lasts 2 to 4 years everywhere he's been. Talked about that before. I don't think he's ever been, the longest stint he's ever had with a team is 4 years. Usually meaning offenses figure you out. So the hope is now with this new era with Brandon Staley, with the versatility, there's just going to be a lot of interchanging parts, which will be a lot of fun to watch and fun to see these guys just go out and ball. So I love that. Other thing I love, Jared Goff. Now, Jared Goff, many will say, had a down year last year, which he did. I think he would say that too. I mean, his stats aren't awful. He threw for over 4,600 yards, which is great. Touchdowns were down 10, so only threw 22 touchdowns. Interceptions were up 16. Too many interceptions for quote-unquote elite-level quarterback play. Way too many. 16 is way too many. It's not 30 like Jameis Winston, but you want to be under 10. The elite quarterbacks are keeping it single digits. But I think Jared Goff is going to have a huge bounce-back year. You know he's got to be sick and tired of hearing whether he's assistant quarterback, whether he's overrated, whether he's overpaid, obviously with that huge contract that he got. So I think he's going to come, ball out. I think McVay's going to call the games correctly. That was kind of the odd thing last year, is they got out of their identity. They got lost. We're going to see more 12 personnel, I think, which will help him out. The offensive line is going to have a lot more continuity. They're not going to see as many injuries as they saw last year. It's just not going to happen. I don't think it'll happen. So many injuries on the offensive line. So the offensive line, no matter what, will be better. Whether you hate they didn't sign anyone or whether you don't mind it, it's going to be better. Which means Jared Goff's going to be better. So I think Jared Goff's going to have a huge bounce-back year. Still love the guy. I still have him in, for sure top 15, probably top 10 quarterbacks. We can do that in another episode if you want, where we just rank our quarterbacks. But, I like Jared Goff. Got a great arm, super accurate. Teammates seem to like him. Character guy, done some good stuff off the field. So I think he turns around. I think he's going to have a monster year. And dare I say MVP candidate. Dare I say. Fresh faces in the running back room. So, yeah. One thing I hate about the Rams. To me, this is an easy one. We could deep dive to the team, the roster. To me, the thing I hate about the Rams is their opening schedule. I hate their first 3 games. At home against the Cowboys, at Philadelphia, at Buffalo. I think the Rams have a ceiling of about 11 wins. I think they have a floor of about 8, maybe 7 if they have a lot of games not swing their way. Because that's what the NFL is. How many times do you look through these teams that go 11-5, 12-4? 4 of those wins are by 1 possession. That could change everything. One thing doesn't go your way. We look last year at the Rams with Pittsburgh. That game could have easily been a win. Rams at Seattle. Greg Zuerlein makes that kick, which he makes 9 out of 10 times. That's a win. They're in the playoffs. So I think their floor is 7 wins if they have some of those situations continue or they just don't go their way. But I think they have a ceiling of 11 wins or so, which is a playoff team, 11-5. But with that opening schedule, at home against Dallas for the opener at SoFi, I know there's going to be a lot of hype about it, but let's be real. Rams have a growing, really good fan base here in Los Angeles. I hate the national, whatever you want to call it, stigma of LA football and the fan has. Rams have a great fan base. But the Cowboys are still a staunch, supported team here in LA. It's just a fact. So that place is going to be packed with Cowboys fans. Cowboys are good, obviously. They're going to be an improved team. They had a great draft, great offseason. So that's like a 50-50 game. Who knows? Then you go at Philly, playoff team, the Wentz-Goff showdown, which is always fun. Added finally some weapons for him at receiver. Miles Sanders could be the breakout player of the year this year. Philly's a tough place to play. And then you go at Buffalo, playoff team. Beat New England. Buffalo, luckily, it's the 3rd week, so it's not going to be 0 degrees and snowing. But it's still a very hard place to play up there in Orchard Park. So I bring this all up is this team, who I still think has a ceiling of 11 wins, could start the year off 0-3. And that does no one good. Looks bad on the Rams. It's hard to get your morale back up. There could be locker room dissension. The fan base is going to be unsettled. You're trying to sell out that stadium every week, which, we won't get into coronavirus, but just talking strictly, if there's a possibility, you're trying to sell a stadium every week, and all of a sudden you have fans, my team's 0-3. Maybe there's something else I'd rather do. Not saying Rams fans are finicky. I think they'll still support them, especially in this first year in this amazing facility. But you don't want to be an 0-3 team. So I hate that opening schedule. It's just a gauntlet. I will say this to Ram fans. If they go 0-3, don't fret. Don't fret. I had them in my season prediction going 1-2, actually, and they still finished 11-5. There you have it. I mean, predictions are all bull anyway. Just for fun. But there you have it. So tough start. Okay, moving on to the final LA team, the Los Angeles Chargers. A lot to love about this team, too. Great offseason. Great offseason. So the 2 things I love about the Chargers this year, let's start first with the run defense. Probably the Achilles heel of the defense last year. Had a really poor run defense. Well, they did a lot to improve that. You bring in Linval Joseph in free agency, who's a good run stuffer right there in the middle in that 4-3 scheme. Justin Jones is a guy who's been solidified as a starter there, surprisingly, but he's a solid player. And then Jerry Tillery, I think, is going to make a jump this year. I think Jerry Tillery for sure has the ability to make a big jump and play up to that first-round moniker that he has. And he needs to. I mean, the dude's a beast. If you've ever seen him in person, the dude is huge. Huge. So he needs to be a run-stopping force there in the middle. Get more playing time. If you have a Linval Joseph, Jerry Tillery, if Jerry Tillery is able to unseat Justin Jones, that automatically is going to help the run defense. Then you draft someone like Kenneth Murray in the first round. Trade back up to get him. Dude's an athlete. Dude is an athlete. Whether they line him up at Mike in the middle or strong side, it's going to be good either way. There's a lot of options for the linebackers. Whether you could have your starters be Denzel Perryman, Drew Tranquil, and Kenneth Murray. You got Uchenna Nwosu, who's really talented. I know he's a good edge rusher, but he also can be good in the run game. Whether you have him, whether you have Kaiser White, super good athlete. So they have a lot of options what they can do with the linebacking core. Whether they have Murray, a lot of options, but they're going to be improved also. I know Thomas Davis is a great athlete, great football player, has had a great career. But you could see some of the limitations last year that his age gave. He lost a step a little bit. He still had a lot of tackles. Lost a step a little bit. Denzel Perryman had kind of an up and down year. Obviously, Derwin James missed some time. We still need to see what Nasser Adderley is going to be when healthy. Is he the guy that everyone was hyped about when they drafted him in the second round? What's his run support look like? Chris Harris Jr., who they got, is great against the run. He's a cornerback, but he's great against the run. One of the most sure tackling corners in the game. Desmond King, where is he going to be? What's his role going to be? But what they did by having basically just by adding Joseph and Kenneth Murray, automatically improvement. So that's huge for this defense, what they need to do. And frankly, they're a top 3 defense in the NFL on paper. Other thing I love about the Los Angeles Chargers, I love the culture they're building. I don't think this gets talked about enough. Everyone loves to dump on the Los Angeles Chargers. You still see people, not even people, you see companies. Pro Football Focus was the latest, tweeting out graphics that say San Diego Chargers still. It's been 4 years. How are the Raiders already Vegas? No one slips up on that. It's almost like a joke to me. I get it. It was a painful divorce. Painful. It didn't go well. But enough of the scorned lover BS. They're in LA now, and they're doing things the right way. Whether you love Dean Spanos, you hate him. As the LA Chargers, they have done a lot of good building their brand and building their culture. Their uniform update, knocked out of the park. Community work, knocking out of the park. What they did on the football field, or I guess off-season, in the draft, and free agency, knocked it out of the park. Just simple things. Season ticket holders get a Chargers mask automatically sent to them for free. It seems so simple, but it's such an easy way to continue building your brand, showing your brand for your faithful that buy season tickets. So I think the culture they're building, I think they're doing good things. They still have a ways to go. I mean, they still are the little brother in LA. They still probably have, of the 32 teams, one of these smaller fan bases of the 32. Maybe the smallest. But they're improving. They're doing things the right way. At some point, you have to applaud an improvement. And the culture they're building, in the locker room and out of it, well done. Social media team, they may be the best in the NFL. They have a great social media team. Anthony Lynn, obviously, quiet guy, but he's been more outspoken with the recent events going on. Hats off to him. So, that's one thing I love that the Chargers are doing. And it's hard for me to say that. Everyone knows I'm a Bronco fan. My fanhood. That's where my fanhood lies. But, give credit where credit's due. And there's a lot of Charger haters out there that will find any way to put negative connotations on what they do, what Spanos does, but I think they've done a lot of good things. A lot of people will look to quarterback and how Tampa Bay signed Tom Brady. Immediately his jersey sales through the roof. Their ticket sales went up. A lot of people look at Cam Newton, who just recently signed with the Patriots. They're being talked about a ton. They're the talk of the town. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Short-term fix doesn't build long-term fan base. Brady or Cam signing in LA, is it a better football move for what they have? I would debate no. I won't get into that because we could talk all day, but I would debate that's not an upgrade who they have. He will probably laugh. You're saying Tom Brady's not as good, You're saying Tyrod Taylor's better than Tom Brady? No, I'm not saying that. But where Brady's at is in his career, if anybody watched the Patriots last year, they had the number 1 defense, and they still lost in the first round. Tom Brady was not Tom Brady. He's 42 years old. He's still a starting viable quarterback. But he's not the GOAT of old. So you're going to pay him $30 million to be a slight upgrade over Tyrod Taylor? Slight? And once he retires in 2 years, all those fans and media base that were watching the Chargers because of Brady go away. And then what are you left with? So they drafted Justin Herbert. There's your long-term solution. Tyrod Taylor can start for now while Justin trains, gets his mind right, and then you build your long-term base. You want to see 10-year-olds, 11-year-olds, 12-year-olds wearing the Herbert jersey for 12, 13 years because when they're in their 20s, they're buying tickets. You don't care about the 40-year-old wearing a Tom Brady jersey that in 2 years is a fan of someone else. Long term. Anyway, here's what I hate to wrap up the show. What do I hate about the Chargers? It's the left tackle position. They've done so well at almost addressing every need. Got their quarterback of the future. They got their stud linebacker who's going to fix the run game. Great offseason free agency pieces they added. Got their right tackle they needed so badly in Bulaga. Got their right guard in Trey Turner. Pouncey's going to be back. If not, Quessenberry is fully capable of playing center. Left tackle. Sam Tevy. Trent Scott. Drafted Trey Pipkins last year, but he's still developing. You have a win-now team. And you have a quarterback that's not necessarily going to win you games. Tyrod Taylor's not going to lose you games, but he's not going to win you games. You're going to need a good defensive effort, a good running game, and you need to put Tyrod Taylor in situations where he can succeed. The last thing you want is his blind side getting destroyed every game. And I bring it up more because you have a guy like Jason Peters who is still sitting as a free agent. Granted, he's 38 years old. But that's an immediate upgrade at left tackle, who they have right now. And guess what? It doesn't change the fact that they love Trey Pipkins and they want him to be the left tackle of the future. It gives him a year, maybe 2. I doubt Peters plays more than 2. He'll be 40. I'm guessing they'd sign him for a 1-year deal. Gives him a year to sit behind Peters, develop more, be coached more by James Camden, the great offensive line coach, and become the future left tackle they need. But I don't think he's there yet. Same with Forrest Lamp. There's a lot of talk about him, who they drafted, highly touted out of Western Kentucky, played tackle. They moved to guard, but could play tackle. He's athletic enough, but the dude can't just stay healthy. Classic Chargers fashion. The dude just cannot stay healthy. But why stretch him back over there if he can't stay healthy already? Keep him at guard, whether it's him or Dan Feeney. You have 2 capable guards there then. And you have a very capable tackle in Jason Peters. So then now you're in win-now mode. Your line is solidified. You have depth. You're not stretching anyone too thin. I like it. He made $6 million last year. Chargers have about $2.3 million in cap remaining this year. So you could do an incentive-laden deal. He's obviously, here we are in July, he's still not signed, so I don't think he has too much of a bargaining chip. 38 years old, he made $6 million last year. Come to a playoff team, $2 million for the year, give you some bonuses and incentives to make the playoffs. Get it done, chalk it up. Why not? So that's the one thing. I don't think it's going to happen. It seems like they're good and set. It would just make me feel more comfortable if they had a Pro Bowl caliber, even at his age, tackle. And then letting, Pipkin still develop, letting Forrest Lamp make sure he's fully healthy, and so on and so forth. So, we'll see. But I think they're probably set. I think they're probably good. So, well, there you have it. thank you so much for tuning in to the Bleav In LA Football podcast. 2 things I love, 1 thing I hate for each of the LA football teams. Let me know what you think. Trojans fans, what do you love? What do you hate? Bruins fans, what do you love? What do you hate? Rams and Chargers, what do you love? What do you hate? Hit me up on Twitter, RyanDarrettLAFB. Subscribe to the show wherever you listen, Apple, Spotify, TuneIn, Stitcher, we're everywhere you listen to podcasts. Hit that subscribe button. Give us a rating. We certainly appreciate it. Vote on the debate about your must-haves for 4th of July. What's your must-haves for a successful 4th of July? Everyone, please be safe, be healthy, enjoy it. Like I said, it's one of my favorite holidays. It's going to be very different looking this year, but you can still have fun. Just keep your distance. Be safe. Be respectful. No need to rebel. So, appreciate you all. Thanks for tuning in. This is the LA Football Podcast. Happy 4th.